Welcome. I would like to welcome you to episode 499 of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. Here at the Unpopular Podcast, I'm not really asked to agree with me. I'm asked you to hear me out. In light of the NFL draft, I wanted to represent my team, represent, where I'm from, and I wanted to wear my Commanders jersey. For any podcaster, any person that says that they're not biased, that's a lie. Now, yes, you can try to take your biases out of it, but you're always going to be biased. You're always going to have a favorite. You're always going to love a certain team. And we all know, me being from Maryland, me being I think I lived about 10, 15 minutes from FedEx Field. I'm definitely a Commanders fan. But where I want to go and where I want to start is this. I always put this as a caveat. Congratulations to everyone that's going to get drafted and everyone that did get drafted in the first round. When I'm recording this, the second round hasn't started yet. So I don't know what happened in the second, third. I don't know what happened with the rest of the draft. But I do know that everyone that does get drafted deserves to be drafted. When we do these winners or losers, it feels harsh at times. It feels like you're crapping on somebody essentially living out their dream. And again, I want to congratulate everybody that get drafted. I want to congratulate everyone that doesn't get drafted and still, like Chase Daniels. Chase Daniels had like a 14-year career and didn't get drafted. He was a Heisman finalist and didn't get drafted. Like, just because you don't hear your name doesn't essentially mean that you don't deserve the opportunity to be in the league, and vice versa. Just because you might hear your name at the 7th pick or the 150th pick, congratulations to every single person that gets drafted. I hope everyone has a successful career, and congratulations to you guys. So when I do, when I start talking about these teams and start talking about some of these picks, one is nothing personal, and two, I'm still happy for you for getting drafted. I still think that you deserve to be drafted and you deserved to hear your name called. With that being said, one thing that I love about this draft period is it really shows you, it gives you your first yearly peek into how your team feels about themselves. It allows you to understand, okay, this is where the team thinks that they need help at. This is where the team thinks that their strengths and weaknesses are. Now, you also realize and you also learn that sometimes the fans feel differently about those strengths and weaknesses than the team. Now, obviously, the team always has the final say so, but there were some picks that were incredibly head-scratching, and there were some picks that were spot on. Let me talk about some of the good picks before we go on to the bad. I'm not going to say bad before we go on to some of the head-scratching. The top, let's say, 3 went exactly how we thought it was going to go. Cam Ward going 1. While I thought that Travis Hunter was going to go second to the Cleveland Browns traded out of the second overall pick for the Jaguars to get Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter. It was pretty much understood that those 3 they were going to be the top 3. They were the best 3 in the draft going into the draft. That is obviously Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, and Abdul Carter. Now, let me talk about first the Browns trading out of the second pick and giving it to the Jaguars. And they actually got the Jaguars got a pretty good haul for it, and the Browns got a pretty good haul for it. Travis Hunter is a generational player. If you allow him to be that generational player, and let me talk about that for a second, because I've talked about it before, and it's obvious. I've said it, and it sounded like a hater when I said it, but it's true. I think if you're looking at Travis Hunter as a singular player, like if you're looking at him as just a wide receiver or you're looking at him as just a cornerback, he is not a generational player. He is not a player that you can just put anywhere and he's going to play at the highest level. You see, a lot of people forget sometimes the difference, the gap, the talent gap between the NFL and college. Now, I want Travis Hunter to succeed. Again, I think that he's a generational talent. But I also understand and I want him to succeed the way that he wants to succeed. With the Jaguars drafting up or trading up to get Travis Hunter, I hope that means that they're going to allow him to play both sides of the ball. I'm not saying play both sides of the ball 100% of the time. I just don't think that's physically possible in the NFL. Again, Arizona, and no offense to Arizona, but Arizona is not the Cardinals. You know, the Baltimore Ravens is different from University of Maryland. Like, these are the talent level is just different. The physicality is just different. I think the Jaguars knocked it out the park trading up to get Travis Hunter if they allow Travis Hunter to be Travis Hunter. You give Trevor Lawrence another weapon, and you also help that defense that was drastically struggling last year. I think that was a great pick. And I think that it's only going to be a great pick if you build a scheme and build packages around Travis Hunter that allows him to play both sides of the ball. Again, when people hear Travis Hunter supporters, I guess, say, no, he needs to play both sides of the ball, I think they hear 100% of the time. And I don't think. Now, obviously, who knows? I mean, he's the first dual threat player in a while that got drafted. Maybe he can do it 100% of the time. I'm just projecting that he probably can't just because of the physicality and just the talent. I think Cam Newton said it. Like, imagine having to guard someone like Tyreek Hill and then turn right back around and be guarded by someone like Jalen Ramsey. It's just, that's just tough. But I do think that was a great pick. Cam Ward, this it's pretty much spells the end, in my opinion, of the Will Levis experience in Tennessee. Cam Ward, in my opinion, was by far the best quarterback, at least prospect-wise, coming out of this draft, and obviously so, he went number one. Now, you hope that the team puts and has pieces around, and that's the thing about going high in the draft. You're always going to teams that aren't really that good. Like, Tennessee just got a new coach. They're just trying to figure everything out, and you're expecting a player to essentially change the franchise, who we'll see. Maybe he has a talent too, but talent isn't everything. Everyone in the league is talented. I think it was smart. I think it was really good that I mean, obviously he went number one, so he was good enough to go number one, but they needed a quarterback. And again, I think this has to spell the end of the Will Levis experience. Look, is Will Levis good enough to be a starting quarterback? Yes. If Will Levis is your starting quarterback, is your team a good team? Probably not. Will Levis, the thing about Will Levis is he's too unpredictable. When he's playing at his best, he's a really good quarterback. He can lead your team to wins. But if he's playing at his best is the part that we don't know. And you're bringing in somebody that talent-wise is just overall more talented than Will Levis. It's understandable, The one thing that scares me though is Tennessee hasn't known what to do with quarterbacks for a while now. I mean, think about it. They had Marcus Mariota. They had so they had Ryan Tannehill, who was probably their best in a while. They've had a bunch of quarterbacks. They just haven't really surrounded them with the talent. And on top of that, all you really had was Derrick Henry, but nothing else. It's like, okay. I mean, yeah, you tried DeAndre Hopkins. Calvin Ridley's been pretty good, but we'll see. We'll see. I want to save Abdul Carter and the Giants altogether for our next topic, but some of the draft picks that I liked in this first round was obviously Ashton Genty. You're going to a Raiders team that I'm not going to say it was all Pete Carroll, but you see what Pete Carroll did with Beast Mode, and I'm not saying that Ashton Genty is Marshawn Lynch, but you give Geno Smith a weapon outside of Brock Bowers, and I didn't realize Ashton Genty was like 5'9". The way that he ran in Boise is crazy. He's able to catch the ball out the backfield. I think that was a really good pick. A lot of these, I'm not gonna say I love it, but I really liked. Look, I'm not gonna say we, since I'll talk about my team. I'm not gonna say that we didn't. Here's my thing. We got Josh Connerly Jr. out of Oregon, offensive tackle. You want to show up that when you have someone as good as Jaden Daniels. One of our concerns last year was the offensive line. It wasn't a huge concern, but it was a concern for the Washington Commanders, and I do like who we picked up. I like the fact that we got an offensive tackle. Now, do I think that there are positions that are a little more pressing than the offensive line right now? Yes. More specifically, the secondary of our defense. Now, when you look at a lot of the players that get drafted or that got drafted, there are a lot of secondary talent in this draft. So I think that there's multiple opportunities to really address that. But I would like, as a fan, obviously, I would like to address the biggest needs. And I don't think the offensive tackle, which is a need, do not get me wrong, and shout out to Josh Connerly Jr. I do like the pick. I just wish we would have went. I feel like, I could be wrong, but I feel like he may have been there when we maybe second, third round. Maybe. Especially when you see how bad, like, our secondary was god-awful last year. Our defense wasn't that good altogether, but definitely our secondary. We'll see what happens later on the draft. Again, while I'm recording this, the second round hasn't started yet. We'll see. And let me look. The draft as a whole always it's kind of like a showcase as well as smart teams against teams that may not be the smartest. And when they say the rich get richer, look at what the Ravens did, look at what the Eagles did, and look at what the Chiefs did. The Ravens needed a safety bad. That was their Achilles heel last year, outside of changing their scheme for every team they played. The Ravens' Achilles heel was their safety. They could not get their safety outside of Kyle Hamilton, who was pretty much a hybrid. Their safety just, that was the thing is that was their that's what they were focusing on. That's what they should have focused on going to the draft. For a team that arguably was this close of being in the, or going back to the AFC Championship, that has Derrick Henry, that has Lamar Jackson, that at this current moment has Mark Andrews, has Isaiah Likely, has Zay Flowers, has what's homie's name? I see his face. Forgot his name, but has Marlon Humphreys, has Kyle Hamilton, has Roquan Smith, a team that loaded to get projectedly the best safety in the draft in Mekhi Starks out of Georgia. How does that happen? Especially, and it goes back to Washington. I know they were first, or the Ravens drafted before Washington, but still, you see the Cleveland Browns drafted up to get a safety. You think Washington can't use a safety? For the Ravens to go and get the best player at the position that they needed the most, the rich get richer, as well as the free. I don't know how and why teams continue to do deals with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, is this a disgruntled fan talking after the Eagles done put up a whooping on them in the NFC Championship? Maybe. But how the hell do you continue to let the Eagles make moves like the moves they made? How do the Eagles trade up to get Jahad Campbell, who's one of the best linebackers, not only in this draft, but could be a day one impactful starter for the Philadelphia Eagles, a team that just won the Super Bowl and lost a bunch of players on their defense like Sweat? You get Jahad Campbell. You let the Eagles, a defending champion, the reigning champion, get Jahad Campbell out of Alabama. Probably one of the hardest, if not the hardest hitting player in the draft. Man. And then you turn around and the team that lost in the Super Bowl goes get Josh Simmons out of Ohio State, offensive tackle. They say the rich get richer. The Ravens got the best safety in the draft. You can argue that the Eagles got the best linebacker in the draft, and the Chiefs got one of the best offensive tackles. And they ain't have to do nothing. Like, it's crazy. Man. Those are some, I mean, again, I love Matthew Golden going to the Green Bay Packers with Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs always on the injury list. You want to get a sure thing, and you give a Jordan Love another weapon. Love that move. I also love Emeka. Oh my God, words, Jalen. Emeka Ibuka. I love him going to the Buccaneers. That's a pass-happy team. You also have Baker Mayfield. You're also in the same locker room with Mike Evans, who's a first ballot Hall of Famer. That was a great pick. You can argue Jalen Walker. I do like that pick out of Georgia, but going to Atlanta, because Atlanta, they just need to, their entire draft needs to be on defense, to be honest with you. Those are some. I'm not mad at the Colston Loveland going to the Bears. You would hope, I would think that the Bears were going to address their offensive line. Maybe they're going to do that later on in the draft. And then if you're going to get a tight end, I would think that you'd go for the tight end that a lot of people think and that we're projected to go a little higher, or projected to be the best tight end in the draft, in Tyler Warren out of Penn State. I don't know. But I'm not mad with getting Cortland Loveland. I think it was a cool pick. Now, it's time to talk. It's time to have a conversation. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Shedeur Sanders falling completely out of the first round. Now, again, while I record this, the second round hasn't started, so I don't know if he gets picked in the second round. I don't know when he gets picked. But Shedeur, maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago, was a projected top 3 pick. So in 2 to 3 weeks, you go from a top 3 pick to getting completely out the second round. Now, a lot of people want an explanation as to why. And obviously, outside of, you don't know. It's like, I look at teams. 2 teams in particular that I'm looking at is the Giants and the Pittsburgh Steelers. 2 teams that have been searching for relevancy at the quarterback position for years now. I understand that the Giants just got Jameis Winston and they also just got Russell Wilson, but neither one of them is the future of the franchise. Russell Wilson is more obviously the right now, but none of them is the future of the franchise. So you'd think someone like a Shedeur Sanders who can learn under a possible future Hall of Famer, let me say this, probably a first ballot Hall of Famer in Russell Wilson and a extensive journeyman in Jameis Winston, you'd think that they would get someone with the same skill set as those or as those 2 in Shedeur Sanders. With the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Pittsburgh Steelers to me is the most egregious one. We saw what just happened a year ago. We've seen the Pittsburgh Steelers and what they look like since Big Ben retired. And you have the fortune of having a projected top 3 pick fall all the way to 21. And you know your team needs a quarterback. You just invested heavily on the offense when we talk about getting DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf isn't just a regular wide receiver. He is a wide receiver 1. Means that you have to essentially change your offense to accommodate him. You let Najee Harris go. It was there. It is there for you to go and be smart. Get the quarterback of the future. Because right now, your quarterback 1 is Mason Rudolph. Now, people are saying them not drafting Shedeur has to mean that they know they're getting someone like Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins. Cool. I'm not mad at that. But let me ask those people, is Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins, how do you think they're going to look in, let's say, 2 to 3 years? Do you think that Kirk Cousins is going to be worth whatever contract you give him in 2 to 3 years? Seeing as though he couldn't even last 2 to 3 years in Atlanta? Do you think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be the same Aaron Rodgers that you think is going to be able to take you to a Super Bowl in 2 to 3 years? Now, I'm not saying that neither would Shedeur. I'm not saying that Shedeur Sanders is going to be that prolific quarterback in 2 to 3 years. But you know what it does for you? It gives you your quarterback of the future. Look, a lot of people are asking why Shedeur Sanders didn't get drafted in the first round. A lot of people want to throw out racism. A lot of people want to throw out sabotage. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'll give you my opinion. My opinion is this. When you see a team like the Giants not only trade up But to trade up and get a quarterback in Jaxon Dart and not Shedeur Sanders, to me, that is it feels like you're trying to send a message. I think you're trying to send a message because you hear a lot of people say that. You hear a lot of people say, well, look at the tape. The tape is why Shedeur Sanders was not a first round pick. And then I would combat that with saying, well, that tape has been the same since the end of the season. The same tape you're asking people to look at is the same tape that had him as a top 3 projected pick. Now, I don't know anything about Mel Kiper. I don't know anything about Justin or Field Yates. I don't know anything about any of these mock draft people. But one thing that I do know is they're pretty much locked in. They have connects. They have people that know they have people in the industry that probably hit their phone daily, that probably gives them a good understanding that you don't go as bad as, okay, this player is going to go from a top 3 pick to not even in the first round. So something had to have happened in a span of 2 to 3 weeks, because the same people that are saying, hey, look at the tape, that same tape had him top 3. Which brings me to my opinion. To a certain extent, not all the way, because it's a different situation, but to a certain extent, I think they view Shedeur Sanders kind of the same way they view Cam Newton. In a sense of, you heard Dan Patrick say it, and you've heard insiders in the NFL say one of the biggest reasons why Cam Newton's career essentially ended the way that it ended, in a sense of teams didn't even want him to be a backup quarterback, is because of his fame, his celebrity, his stature. They were saying that he was too popular. He was too much of a personality to be a backup. Because as soon as the starting quarterback would mess up, as soon as the starting quarterback may have a bad game, reporters, everyone would turn and ask, well, when is Cam going to start? Which can be a locker room killer. So teams were like, you know what? He's already kind of diminished when we talk about, injuries kind of hitting his body and his age. We're just not going to take a flyer on him. Do I think that was wrong? Probably, but that's what teams were saying. When you look at Shedeur, you see, him and Deion. You see the fanfare that his presence brought Colorado. You see the jewelry. You see everything. You see the fact that, he didn't participate in the combine. He didn't participate, he didn't throw as senior. He didn't do none of that. And I'm not saying that's a problem. You know who else didn't do that? Jaden Daniels. You see how that turned out. But I don't think I said this before, and it's not just there is a little bit of racism in it, but teams do not like confidence. For some reason, teams do not like confidence from certain players. They want you, in my opinion, their confidence is a deterrent for a lot of people. And Shedeur, look, I tweeted, it looked like it was intentional. And then I have people coming at me saying, did you turn on the tape? Again, this is the same tape that had him a top 3 projected. This is the same tape that got him to where, what? And let me get to the Giants. First of all, I will say And before we continue, I will say shout out to Jaxon Dart. I think that he was good enough to be drafted. Obviously, he was good enough to be drafted. I think that he had a really good career at Ole Miss. So this isn't me crapping on Jaxon Dart. But when you talk about the Giants, you traded up to get Jaxon Dart, a quarterback who probably would have been wherever the hell you were drafting before. He would have been there. I started this episode with talking about it really shows you how a team feels about themselves, and it really shows you the confidence level of a team. Now, I'm not just saying this because I'm a Commanders fan, and obviously the Giants are in the NFC East and they're in our division, but I'm saying this wholeheartedly. You already have the Daniel Jones incident. Not even incident. You already have the Daniel Jones blunder. And Colin Cowherd says something that was, he's off a lot of times, but sometimes he hits the nail on the coffin. And sometimes he is spot on, in my opinion, with some of the things that he says. And one thing that he said, if you weren't really name the quarterback that was drafted high, because being drafted 25th is high in the first round. Name a quarterback that was drafted that high where we really didn't check or really talk about that much in the regular season. We didn't talk about Jaxon Dart that much. Because outside of, and that's another thing, bro, people keep bringing up that one game against Georgia. Now, don't get me wrong. Georgia's powerhouse. Georgia's Georgia. But outside of that game, when did we really talk about Jaxon Dart? When did Jaxon Dart become that guy? Again, his accuracy is really good. He's a good quarterback, and I think that he has the possibility to be a really good player in the league. But you had an opportunity. You drafted up. You had an opportunity to get your quarter. And that's another thing, bro. The Giants, which it might be a blessing for Shedeur, because the Giants, when's the last time you looked at their organization and thought they knew what they're doing at the quarterback position? Like, I think Shedeur Sanders, it felt like, and that's Joe Klatt said it. That's one reason why I hate the whole draft process. I love the draft. I hate the whole draft process because it's like these anonymous sources really have the power to tank a draft stock, to tank and really dictate somebody's future on an interview. Don't get me wrong, man. All the criticism I heard from Shedeur Sanders is he didn't interview well. Okay. Did you watch the tape, though? The same tape that people are telling me to watch? Did you watch that tape? The same tape that had him as a top 3 projected? Or does the interview did he just, you tell me what it is. I think the biggest loser out of this entire thing isn't just Shedeur Sanders, but it's the process. Because how do you go from a top 3 pick, not do anything in the combine, the tape doesn't change? You go from top 3 to out the first round. You can say the same thing happened to Lamar Jackson in a certain sense. Lamar Jackson, I think, went like 30th to the Ravens, which is correct. Obviously, he didn't go for. He still went in the first round, but he dropped. It's like, I think the biggest loser in the whole thing is the evaluation process. Because how does that happen? Now, you can say Shedeur Sanders wasn't that good on tape. You can say Jaxon Dart was much better. And I will say, was he though? You can say, yeah, he had better stats. But did Jaxon Dart, in my opinion, am I mistaken? Didn't Jaxon Dart have a better offensive line? Didn't Jaxon Dart have better receivers? I didn't say he had the best receiver. That was probably Travis Hunter out of the two. But didn't he have better weapons around him? And moreover, a better offensive line? So, of course, he's going to have better numbers. I mean, another, I don't know, man. This whole evaluation thing just is weird. Because my thing is, if the Mel Kipers of the world, if the Todd McShays of the world was so wrong, how did no one see that until the end of until draft night? Which is why I think this, and even in draft night, you see people like Joe Klatt, you see people like Louis Riddick just continue to heap praise on Shedeur Sanders. To no avail. The man ended the night the same place he started the night, and that is undrafted. Now, again, I don't know what happens in the second round. I'm recording this before the second round, but still. Some other picks are a little questioned. I understand it. Let me first say. Shamir Stewart at 17 going to the Bengals from Texas A&M. I get it. The reason why they didn't make the playoffs last year was because of their defense. And they got one of the best edge rushers, but I just feel you could have got somebody better. Like, there were better defenders than Shamir Stewart. Again, I think he deserved to be drafted. But when you're drafting 17, like, again, you could have had James Pierce Jr. You could have had Jahad Campbell. I know he's a linebacker, but still. Like, you need damn near, especially your secondary. That's another thing. Like, you had the sacks leader in Trey Hendrickson. You're not really trying to pay him, and you get an edge rusher instead of focusing on the main issue, and that is your secondary. Just saying. Especially when you look in Malachi Starks, who went to the Ravens, is still there. Best safety, I don't know. Again, I don't know what happens in the second round. Congratulations to everyone that got drafted in the first round. Congratulations to everyone that gets drafted, period. All of it is deserved. And I'm happy to see, and I'm hoping that everybody that gets drafted has a long career. So shouts out to you guys. We'll see how it goes. I want to talk about some takeaways from the playoffs in the NBA. And at the time of recording this, there's still a couple game threes that need to happen. But I want to give some of my takeaways, and I'm not going to be long. Let me first start with, in my opinion, the most fascinating series that we've had, and that is the Knicks and Pistons. I think it's the most fascinating because this is the only series, in my opinion, that we've seen that the better team is not the team that's up. And what I mean by that is this. The Pistons, in my opinion, have dominated this series. When you look at the leads, when you look at the time of the time that they've been trailing compared to when they've been leading, the Pistons have dominated the Knicks. It seems like damn near every game, the Pistons are up double digits. Except for game 3. But it also shows why youth, I'm not going to say is an issue, but why youth is always frowned upon in the playoffs. Because playoff atmosphere, playoff basketball is different than the regular season. Now, that's an obvious statement when you have to win 4 games to advance. You technically have to win 16 games to call yourself a champion. I know it sounds minuscule when you talk about an 82 game season, but that's essentially what it is. And there's ways you have ways to win. And one way that is uniform is you don't win in the first quarter, you don't win in the second quarter, you don't win in the third quarter, you win in the fourth. And the Pistons, who I think has dominated this series, has not been able to continuously know how to win, which comes with youth. Cade Cunningham has been incredible. Jalen Duren has been good. Malik Beasley, Dennis Schroeder, they've all been really good. The only issue is when it comes to crunch time, when it comes to winning those possessions, they falter. Yo, how many double-digit leads have we seen the Pistons blow? On top of that, how many double-digit leads have we seen the Knicks have that they essentially lost until the end? The Knicks were up, I think, 20-something. And the Pistons took the lead in game 3. I don't think, and this is one of the biggest reasons why I said that the Pistons could shock some teams, could surprise the teams, because they're a talented team, which is why I don't know if he's going to win, but I voted J.B. Bickerstaff as the coach of the year. But the playoffs are different. And as we're seeing veteran plays by a Jalen Brunson, by a Karl Anthony Towns, by a Josh Hart, by a OG Anunoby, who, again, they've been outplayed this entire series by Cade, by Malik, by the Pistons. But the Pistons do not know how to finish games. And you can say that as youth, and I'm not going to say you're wrong, because what else is there? There's no injuries to speak of. This is the one, looking at all these series, this is the one series where the better team, through 3 games at least, is not the team that's up. And that's because of late game execution. I'll say it like this. If the Pistons had better late game execution, they would be up 3-0 in this series. But because they don't, remember the first game, they were up like 25 or something like that. They were up double digits for sure. But because they don't know how to finish, the Knicks lead this series 2-1. Not saying that the series is completely over, but it just shows you the gap in familiarity, the gap in playoff basketball compared to regular season basketball. And the Pistons, I'm not saying that they're a championship caliber team, but as you were seeing in this series, they deserve to be in the playoffs. But as we're seeing in this series, there's also a reason why not a lot of people pick them, and that is, and this is where youth, that whole youth argument. If you want a perfect example, look at the Pistons, a team that, in my opinion, has been the better team, is currently down because they don't know how to finish in the playoffs. Shout out to the Pistons, shout out to the Knicks. But the Knicks, oh boy. We'll just stay on this series. Let's go to another series. And to me, this is the you have the Clippers up on the Pistons or on the Nuggets 2-1. This series, Kawhi Leonard is reminding you just who he is. Kawhi Leonard is reminding you that when healthy, he is one of the best playoff players, not just in the league currently, but one of the best playoff players in league history. From what he did in San Antonio, what he did in Toronto, he's showing you that when healthy, he is essentially him in the playoffs. That's one of the biggest reasons why, if you go back and watch, I predicted that the Clippers were going to upset the Nuggets in this series. Not just because of Kawhi Leonard, not just because of James Harden and Norman Powell and how good this Clippers team is playing, but they went in to the playoffs with more momentum, with playing better basketball than the Nuggets did. There were a lot more question marks, and even at this moment, a lot of those question marks are being answered. When we talk about the Nuggets compared to the Clippers, do I think the Clippers are a perfect team? No. Do I think the Clippers could possibly beat the Thunder? Possibly. And we'll talk about the Thunder and Grizzlies in a second, but what I'm saying is the question was, outside Nikola Jokic, who is going to be that reliable second option? Because Jamal Murray hasn't been that for the last, let's say, 2 years. He's been very inconsistent since they won the championship. Can Aaron Gordon pick him up? Can Michael Porter Jr. hit timely shots? Outside of those four, who is going to, is it going to be Braun? Is it going to be, like, who is it going to be? And as we're seeing, it ain't nobody. Outside of Nikola Jokic. And Jamal Murray has had a couple games. He's had a couple big shots. But outside of that, mind you, game one, the one that the Nuggets won, the Clippers were up huge. They were up like 20 points. And Russell Westbrook happened. And the Clippers started turning the ball over like crazy. The Clippers have displayed that they are a superior team to the Nuggets. And it also shows you what happens when a team, mind you, Mike Malone's gone. The GM's gone. But I think this is a byproduct more of what has happened since they won a championship. You losing someone as important as Bruce Brown. You losing someone as important as Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. You paying huge on Jamal Murray, who understandably at the time deserved the money, but has not lived up to that contract. You paying Michael Porter Jr., who has not lived up to that contract. So it's like all this turmoil. Again, they just fired their head coach a week ago. All this turmoil going into the playoffs, and you think you're about to beat a hot Clippers team? A team that I think going into the playoffs won 8 straight and would have been 9 straight if they didn't fumble game one. Like, the writing is on the wall. Do I think Nikola Jokic is still one of, if not the best player in basketball? Yes, but the playoffs show basketball. Look, there's not one player that can win a championship. You saw that with Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan didn't win a championship until he got paired with Scottie Pippen. LeBron James didn't win a championship till he got paired with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh in the Heat. Kevin Durant did not win a championship until he got paired with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. Nikola Jokic he's paired with I don't remember who was commentating, but I heard them say that Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic is probably the best 1-2 punch in basketball, and that is maybe if you're talking about the championship year, but no, it has not been. Right now, the Clippers are playing as the superior team. They destroyed them in Game 3. I think they won by like 20. And as good as Nikola Jokic has been, because he's been good, the best player in this series, in fact, I'll go as far as saying the best two players in this series so far has been Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. No, this is not the James Harden of old. This isn't the Rockets James Harden. But he's been exactly what they needed. And Kawhi Leonard has reminded people, oh, this is why people have saying he's a top 10 player in the league. Oh, this is why people question his status and his rank all time. Got it. If I'm not mistaken, hold up. If I'm not mistaken, Kawhi Leonard, give me a second. I have to. Yeah, this is why Kawhi Leonard is on the All-NBA 75 team. He's him. He just has struggled with being healthy. And, yeah. This is also what happens when a team puts more on the shoulders of a player than they should. When you think that because Nikola Jokic is, a MVP, 3-time MVP, he's an MVP finalist. He might be a 4-time MVP at the end of this season. Who knows? But they're just putting the house on his shoulders. And you're playing against a team that ain't going for that. Zubac, I don't know if he's going to win Most Improved, but is the reason why he's a finalist. So, shout out to the Clippers. We'll see what happens. I don't think you guys understand how much implications this Pacers-Bucks series has. Now, at the time of this recording, Game 3 has not started yet. Oh my gosh, Game 3 is on ESPNU. But I kind of like to a certain extent when we talked about football and I said that if the Jets don't win it all, major changes are going to happen. And I was right. I'm not saying that the Pacers have to win it all. And I'm also not saying that the Pacers aren't going to win this series. I mean, I'm not saying that the Bucks are not going to win the series. The Pacers, all they did was secure home court. They beat the Bucks at home. But if you have Damian Lillard and you traded as much as you traded for him, and you have Giannis, and you don't make it out the first round, after essentially, I don't think making it out the first round last year due to injury, there are going to be major changes. Because what they did, what the Bucks are doing is, and you're seeing this clear as day. You see, I want to apologize because I disrespected the Blazers or the Pacers. I disrespected them like crazy because when you look at both of these teams stacked up on paper and some in the regular season, the Pacers just didn't look like a team that could really compete for a championship, let alone a team that can beat a Bucks team who has championship aspirations. Now, yes, I understand the Bucks didn't have the best season, but you can also say that that could have been due to injury. I mean, at the end of the season, Damian Lillard missed a month, I believe, due to blood clots. And so I was wrong when it came to the Pacers, because if you look at both of these teams playing each other, it looks night and day. The Pacers look like the far superior team. Now, again, it could be because they're at home. But Mr. Overrated, seeing as though Tyrese Halliburton was voted the most overrated player by his peers, they are taking the Bucks with a healthy Giannis, by the way. In game 2, game 1, Damian Lillard missed. Game 2, Damian Lillard came back. They are taking them behind the woodshed and destroying them. Nembhard is going crazy. Pascal Siakam's playing well. Tyrese Halliburton, this team is going crazy. This team, they look far superior than the Bucks, and that is a problem. When you invest as much as you invest in this team, when you go get Kyle Kuzma, when you have Taurean Prince, Brooke Lopez, like you have Kevin Porter Jr., you have Gary Trent Jr., you want a return of those investments, and they have not returned. So what I'm saying is, if they don't make it out this first round, and it could just, I mean, obviously you don't win in 2 games. We saw that with the Bucks and Suns finals. Things can obviously turn around going to Milwaukee, but Milwaukee looks like the far inferior team when we talk about this series. And I don't think that's what they thought when they got someone like Damian Lillard to pair with Giannis. So I think that there are going to be major changes if they don't make it out the first round. Which, again, I don't know what happens in game 3 because it's tonight. But from what it's looking like, that ain't finna happen. If the Pacers and Bucks series looks like it has looked like in these first 2 games, I don't see how the Bucks win this series. So, yeah. You know, this Lakers and Timberwolves series is very interesting because we're really seeing for the first time LeBron accept and acknowledge the fact that he is essentially the LeRobin on his team. Now, you can argue 2020 championship, Anthony Davis was the best player until, but LeBron James is the second best player on his team to Luka. And what we're seeing in this series is I still don't think the Lakers have enough to win it all. I think that they're a good team. I think that Luka and LeBron James, they've kind of formed a perfect pairing, because what you fear is both players that need the ball in their hands don't do much with the ball outside of their hands, but that's not what we're seeing, at least from LeBron James. The Lakers, Austin Reeves has been a really good third option. It's also, look, I'm not here to bash any team, but I look at some of the offensive sets that this Timberwolves team runs, and it is nasty work. It is just, oh God, it's just Anthony Edwards try to take you one-on-one, or give it to Julius Randle. He backs you down from the 3-point line to try to create or try to get to his left hand. It's obviously you have Jaden McDaniels in the corner. It doesn't look like good basketball. And defensively, boy, I don't know how or why the hell Rudy Gobert is still well, I guess I do because Nas Reed isn't it. Yeah, no, there's a reason why this Timberwolves team is sixth. With the talent that they have, there's a reason why, and it's all accumulating against this Lakers team. So it's interesting to see the dynamic of LeBron James accepting and playing the Robin role to Luka, because Luka is going crazy. So thanks, Dallas. Talk about seismic. So this Rockets and Warriors series could very well have turned on its head, and that is you bring in Jimmy Butler for the playoffs, and Jimmy Butler has been good for the playoffs. He's been good for this Warriors team when they're fully healthy. I think they're like 28-7 or something with Jimmy Butler. And a lot of people had the Warriors upsetting the number 2 seeded Rockets this playoffs because they had Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry. And even in game 1, that duo looked really good. Now, Jimmy Butler, I think he has like a pelvic contusion or a deep tissue bruise or something after a nasty fall. Game 2 of the Rockets-Warriors game, it was just nothing but sheer physicality. The Rockets were holding on every single play. They just dominated the Warriors. That's just how it was. Now, we'll see what happens in game 3, but I'm going to tell you this. If the Warriors do not have Jimmy Butler for any period of time, I think they lose this series. That's how integral. Because the way that the Rockets are playing and being allowed to play with the physicality, Steph Curry he's just getting tossed around. Like you got Dylan Brooks holding him, you got Fred VanVleet holding him, you got Jalen Green. Let me talk about Kuminga for a second. Let me talk about Kuminga because I was wondering, just like a lot of people were wondering, why is Kuminga not playing that much? Like, why is he in the doghouse with the Warriors? Now, some people, shout out to those people, they were saying it's probably due to his contract situation. I watched what he did. Now, you can say, hey, he hasn't played the last, 3 games, so he's going to be a little rusty. Understandable. I watched what he did against Jalen Green. Game 2 had like 30-something points. Most of those 30 points was on Buddy Hield and Jonathan Kuminga. I get it. Jonathan Kuminga has all the attributes to be a great defender. He just does not have the IQ. And I usually would preface it by saying right now, but Jonathan Kuminga is essentially a vet in the league. In fact, when did Jonathan Kuminga get drafted? Jonathan Kuminga. Jonathan Kuminga was drafted in 2021. That's essentially 4 years. And you still don't understand defensive shifts. You still don't have defensive IQ. It's like every time Golden State will go on a run, right? Every time they cut it, because remember, the Rockets were up by damn near 30. Every time Golden State cut it to maybe 11, 12, here comes a foul by Jonathan Kuminga. Here comes a Buddy Hield foul. Like, dude, what the? It's just, Yeah. I've seen the light. If you need to rely on Jonathan Kuminga for extended periods of time, nah. If Jimmy Butler is out for any game, they're going to lose that game, in my opinion. I could be wrong, and it's looking like he's not going to be available for game 3. Yeah, we'll see. The Rockets the way that the Rockets play, the way that they're destroying Golden State on the glass, which you knew. Golden State's a small team, but Alfred Şengün is going crazy. Steven Adams is going crazy, which I thought that the Golden State Warriors, which they kind of did in Game 1, they would play someone like Steven Adams off the court because, he's a good rim protector, but he's not really great outside of the rim, and they have great shooters. Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. How's that Heat culture going, guys? I'll tell you how. The Cavaliers, I think, hit 11 threes in a quarter. I think that's the most all time, at least for them, in Game 2. I was, maybe because I haven't really watched a lot of Heat games. I didn't realize, Bam Adebayo is not a number one. Well, obviously, I know their go-to scorer is Tyler Hero, but Bam is not a number one. Bam, he's getting outplayed by, shout out to Evan Mobley, who won Defensive Player of the Year, but he's getting outplayed by him, tremendously. The Cavaliers are just I know they're number one seed in the East. They're just a far better team. Point blank, period. Ooh, the Thunder and Grizzlies. Now, everyone can talk about, I know recency bias is a thing. I know recent memory is a thing as well. Everyone's going to talk about Ja Morant in the fall and how the Grizzlies had a 29-point lead and essentially lost that lead and lost the game to the Thunder. I will go as far as saying they might have won that game without Ja Morant. With Ja Morant, because they were destroying him. But there's no way, the Thunder is showing you, this is why we're the number one team in the West. This is why. They are beating the Grizzlies feel like they're just falling apart, man. And I'm not saying physically. They're just not a good team. And you're going against a team like Alex Caruso is going crazy, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, obviously Shea Gilgeous. Lou Dort has been a menace on the defensive side of the ball. You're playing against a complete team. Now, a lot of people are saying the Pistons, the Thunder, the Rockets, youth is going to hurt them. And I would say the Thunder is much different because the Thunder was just in the playoffs last year with pretty much the same team. So while, yes, they're the youngest team in the league, they have playoff experience and they have possibly the MVP this year. So the Grizzlies ran into a buzzsaw and they are getting chopped up. I hope for a speedy recovery from Ja Morant. I hope that it's not serious. I know, he landed on his hip, directly on his hip, which was a very unfortunate play because I think that it was Scottie Pippen Jr., his fault. Just lay the ball up. He throws it back, which causes Lou Dort to turn around, oh shoot. And when he turns around, he accidentally decleats pretty much Ja Morant and he lands. But the Grizzlies are getting destroyed. I would be shocked if the Grizzlies win Game 4 because do you know how demoralizing it is to be up 29 points to lose? And lastly, I think before we go, the only thing I'm going to say is this. I said it before, and I will say it again. A team is going to show you who they are in the regular season. It's up to you, to believe them. The Magic have showed you all season that they are a good team that can't score consistently. They're a good team that has two scorers, but Even that, Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner are great players. They're not consistent scorers. This Magic team is one of the worst offensive teams, not just in these playoffs, but in the NBA. They're a good team, but they're not a scoring team. Well, what do you think is going to happen when they're not the best defensive team either, and you're going up against a team that has scores everywhere? I don't think, outside of maybe one or two, maybe one player, there's not one player on the Rockets on the Celtics outside of one that can't hit a three. I don't think, and I said this before, I'd be shocked if they won a game. The game 2 win was game 2 because Boston didn't have Jason Tatum with a wrist bruise. And you let Jaylen Brown, who, don't get me wrong, I know he's a Finals MVP, Eastern Conference Finals MVP. He's a champion. He's a star. You let Jaylen Brown kill y'all. Game 1, I believe, Derek White had 30 points on y'all. This Magic team can't score. What do you think they're going to do against arguably the best team in basketball when they're all playing? And as we're seeing, they obviously can't win when they're all not playing. Yeah, but like I said it before and I'll say it again. I would be shocked if the Magic win a game this series. Because you're playing against a far superior team. And when you can't score against arguably one of the best scoring teams in basketball, and if you can't even beat them without Jason Tatum, their best player, but I'd just be talking, right? There you have it. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I truly appreciate you guys. All my YouTube listeners, all my YouTube followers, watchers, please, please, please continue to support. Please follow. If you know someone that isn't followed, please send it to them and follow. I'm trying to reach as many subscribers as possible. I'm almost at 2K, which is crazy. I appreciate all of you guys. So again, all of my YouTube supporters, please follow, please subscribe. All of my DSPs, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, all the DSPs, wherever you listen to this luscious voice of mine, please subscribe, please follow. It means a lot. Again, no platform is bigger than the other. I'm trying to grow the podcast as much as I can, both on the DSPs and on YouTube. So please, please, please follow and subscribe. For my social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, please follow there. That's probably the quickest way to get to me. We can go back and forth. If you just keep it respectful, I don't mind us going back and forth. It just means that you have an opinion, you're listening to me, and you want me to know something, and I appreciate all of that. So you keep it respectful. I don't mind going back and forth. You got reels, you got stories, pretty much the whole works on social media, so please follow. Until next, actually, go Capitals. Go Capitals. We're up, what? I don't know if we played tonight. Let me see. Actually, I don't think so. Yes, we do. Right now, as we currently speak, we're up 2-0 against the Montreal Canadiens. That's all I'm saying. Shout out to Capitals. Let's the grade 8. Let's go get that Stanley Cup. Until next time, much love.